Hello Internet, it is me, the E-Man, and if my hair keeps looking this bad, I'm gonna have to start wearing hats again in videos, because this is just becoming ridiculous now. Anyway, No Time Act 3 is supposed to come out sometime in late June or early July. That's almost 2 months from now. That's a pretty long time to wait, but a lot of people are using that time to speculate and theorize what might happen in the game's concluding act. Now, the developer of the game asked me if I wanted to make a video where I go over some of my personal theories on what might be awaiting us in Act 3. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do in today's video. Okay, so to start off, I want to take a look at these two preview screenshots. The first one shows a bunch of time agents face down on the floor in some kind of facility lobby, and the second one shows more of the same but also reveals the name C-Corp written on the wall. Now, I agree with Nebby in my Discord server that this probably stands for Crimson Corp, as in the main antagonist of the game, Mr. Crimson. I have a feeling this is probably the headquarters of his company, corporation, that has taken over the world in Act 2 and created the dystopian future you travel to. Not entirely sure what they do, I mean, besides, like, creating a better future for everyone, but I think that's probably where you end up going at some point in Act 3. Now, at first, I didn't think that these time agents were dead, because I thought that would be a little bit morbid for the game, considering you just beat everyone up in the game. Even with the accelerated plasma rifle, you don't actually kill anyone, you just kind of knock them out and then they disappear. But then I took a closer look at it and I realized that the skin on the time agents' like neck and hands was very, very white, like even more pale than normal. The characters in the game are relatively pale, but these were like really, really white. And then if you zoom in very closely on that guy behind the desk, I think that's the top of his head, and that kind of looks like a skull. I could be reading too much into it, I'm not sure, but it kind of looks like a skull. So I'm wondering if these guys are a bunch of skeletal remains of time agents, like they've been dead for a really, really long time, and you're coming there now, and you're finding all of this, because, like, I don't know, some kind of time distortion or something? Not entirely sure. Either that, or the theory that I had originally, was that you pump some kind of sleeping agent or knockout gas into the facility and take out everyone at once, and then you walk through to whatever your objective is. I have a feeling that one's more likely, but I'm kind of feeling the skeletal remains thing. I don't know, that seems very plausible to me. Next is this screenshot. So to me, this looks very clearly like the dystopian future of the 2020s, so even though we defeated Mr. Crimson and the Time Agents back in 33 AD, I guess that timeline still exists, and I'm assuming we end up going back to the 2020s for some kind of battle or war or confrontation, I don't know. This looks a lot like a battlefield with the big tank robot thing driving on it. It kind of looks like one of the Terminators from the Christian Bale movie. I think that was, what, Terminator Salvation? Kind of looks like one of those. Anyway, it wouldn't be a stretch for us to encounter something that kind of looks like the Sentry bot from the backyard and then from 33 AD, because in Act 2, we had Mr. Crimson appropriating our robot design with the Templar bot that we fought in his weird cathedral office thing. So this kind of looks more of the same like that. Now I'm assuming this is going to be some kind of mini-boss, because it's not going to be the final boss, it's probably going to be Mr. Crimson, maybe even in his ship, I don't know. But this is probably going to be some kind of really tough mini-boss. I'm thinking 2/3, 3/4 of the way through Act 3, but that's just speculation at that point. Now, speaking of the duration of Act 3, it is supposed to be roughly 5 hours in length, which is pretty good, because that's, I think, about the length of Act 1 and 2 put together if you're just playing the story without doing any of the side quests. And Act 3 should have plenty of side quests as well, so I don't know if the side quests count in that or not, but 5 hours for the final act is a pretty good length, I think. Okay, now that's all I have for preview screenshots, so now I'm just going to talk about some general theories I have about Act 3's story. I assume that all the minor characters from the previous two acts will come back in some capacity within Act 3. So Michael and Jason, I'm assuming, are definitely going to come back, because the last time we saw them, they were still hiding in the sewers in the 2020 dystopian future. Now, I'd like to see Jason become some kind of minor villain in the game, because he was very clearly losing faith with the resistance movement, and he was, at least the way I was reading his character, he was being, you know, a whiny little coward the whole time. So I'd kind of like to see him turn over, and then there'd be like some kind of weird thing where Michael is trying to bring him back to the light side, and he's like, no, you're all gonna die, I want to be on the winning team, so I'm gonna be a time agent. That would be kind of cool, actually, if he got, like, recruited to be a time agent, and you met him as a time agent, and you had to try to, like, talk him down. I don't think that's gonna happen, but I definitely think there's gonna be something with him. Maybe you'll have to kill him, I don't know. He'd probably be kind of satisfying to kill, but you'll probably, like, convince him to come back to the good guy's side. That's what my guess is, anyway. Now, I'm also assuming that Clint Westwood and Henry the journalist are probably going to be integral in helping you in the final climactic battle that is inevitably going to ensue at the end of Act 3. Now, obviously, the native guy that gave you the note at the end of Act 2 is going to be super important in Act 3. I'm assuming you're probably going to be introduced to his whole tribe, and then you'll have to do some kind of quest for them in order to gain their trust, or to build a relation with them so that they'll give you more information. What I'm not clear about is that the note seems to have been from Arthur, but if you guys sent the time agents into the distant future, then how would Arthur have been able to give him the note, unless he found time travel equipment in the future, but he was only able to go back too far? Either that or time is just a big looping circle. Not entirely sure on how that's all going to connect. Unless, when Arthur was gone for that year period, that for us was only a couple hours, but his time device didn't work and he was gone for a year, unless he had put in some kind of failsafe in the case of him going missing, that he had something to go all the way back in time. I don't know. That's really complicated, but maybe it's going to be something kind of like that. What I'm curious about is whether or not you'll be able to go further into the future than 2030, because right now, if you try to go any further than 2030, the game just ends, you die. I don't know, entropy stops and you experience the heat death of the universe in 2030, apparently. But because a bunch of people asked me to, go to the year 9999 or try to go to this distant future, and you just can't. The game doesn't work. So I'm curious if more futures will be added. I'm actually kind of assuming future time periods will be added because we did send Arthur and the Time Agents to the distant future, so presumably we will go at least somewhat further than 2030. As for side quests and extras, I'm almost definitely sure that something's going to happen with the pirate ship and the pirate shantytown, because as of right now there isn't really anything to do. It's a really hard area to get into, and you can only really buy ale on the pirate ship tavern. So presumably there will be some kind of side quest or a special event that'll happen there. Personally, I'm really hoping for some more supernatural side quests, like the Accordion Man quest, with that weird temple that spatially and topographically didn't make any sense at all. That was really cool atmospherically. I really enjoyed that quest, so I'm hoping for some more moments in the game kind of like that. Okay, now here's my one big kind of personal theory I've had bubbling inside my head since playing Act 2. I think it'll be revealed that there's some kind of relation between Mr. Crimson and E.R. Arthur. Now, it is kind of heavily implied that Mr. Crimson was either your boss or he was watching over your time experiments in the 80s, which, speaking of the time experiments in the 80s, it would be so cool, and I have a feeling you'll get to go to the 80s and, like, see your time experiments or even see you escaping with the time machine. That would be really cool. It'd go full circle. But I think that Mr. Crimson is either going to be like E.R. Arthur's dad or his brother, or E.R. Arthur from the future, because he kind of looks like an older version of E.R. Arthur. Now granted, all the characters in No Time look very similar. I mean, they are fairly simplistic in design, so it kind of makes sense, but he does kind of look like an older E.R. Arthur. And when you meet Mr. Crimson in that big cathedral kind of office room with all the time agents around, he's like, "Ah, yes, the great E.R. Arthur, yes." So he, like, kind of praises E.R. Arthur. Now, I don't know if that was sarcastic or not, but I certainly got the impression that he kind of holds him in reverence. So I think that would be such a twist, right? If it turns out that Mr. Crimson was actually an evil future version of E.R. Arthur. And then you had to, like, if you told E.R. Arthur about it, you could, like, change the future, and then nothing would have happened, and it would have created a paradox or something. That would be like a crazy end to the game, right? So that's kind of my personal theory. I have nothing to substantiate that. There's no screenshots. Any of the one design document, which I'm not sharing at all, the one design document had nothing that implied that at all, but that's kind of my own pet theory. So I will just have to wait 2 months and find out when Act 3 comes out, I guess. Alright, so that's basically it for any theories I had about what might happen in No Time Act 3. It'll be pretty fun in 2 months when the game comes out to look back and see how either right or just completely wrong I was about everything. Feel free to leave a comment down below about what you think might happen in No Time Act 3. I don't normally make these kind of theory speculative videos, but the developer suggested I give it a try, and I had fun doing it. Feel free to join the Discord server that's linked down below. We've got a pretty good tiny little community and lots of stale memes to go around, so feel free to drop in. Alright. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it maybe a little bit interesting. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again on whatever I decide to play next real soon. Goodbye!